The sun dipped low over the city view, casting long golden shadows on the wide gates of Gratis College. The school stood tall and grand, its red brick buildings gleaming in the light. Laughter and chatter drifted from the school compound as smartly dressed boys and girls moved about, their school bags swinging behind them. In a small corner of the city, under a torn umbrella shade in a busy market, a girl bent over a tattered notebook. Her fingers gripped a borrowed pen, her lips moved as she read under her breath. Flickering candlelight danced on her determined face. A worn-out textbook, its cover barely hanging on, rested on her lap. She flipped pages with care, her eyes scanning lines, stopping only to write on a small piece of paper beside her. Each night, when the market noise died down and her mother lay asleep, she reached under the mattress and pulled out more borrowed books, each one marked with paper tabs and folded corners. She studied until her eyes burned. One morning, on her way to the library, she stopped at the school wall. A notice flapped in the breeze. She stepped closer, squinted at the bold letters. Her hand shot to her mouth. The exam was free. Her fingers trembled as she touched the paper. Her lips stretched into a smile. A few days later, she walked alone to the exam hall. Her slippers made soft flapping sounds on the gravel. Around her, girls stepped out of shiny cars, their shoes new, their skirts crisp. Amelia's dress clung loosely to her thin body, her hands clutched her pen and a sheet of paper. She sat down quietly among girls with manicured nails and gold-plated pens. Her eyes stayed on the question paper. Her hands moved quickly, scribbling answers, crossing some out, rewriting others. Her brows stayed furrowed until time was called. Weeks passed. Then the list came out. She stood near the school wall again, the same place where she had once read the exam notice. Her eyes searched the paper. Her breath caught. There it was. Her name. The first one on the list. She blinked. Looked again. Still there. Inside his office, Mr. Thomas, with glasses resting low on his nose, leaned forward, staring at her scores. His lips parted, but no words came out. He tapped his fingers slowly on the table, then called his assistant. "Call this girl," he said, pointing at the top name. Back at the market stall, Amelia sat quietly. Her chin rested on her knees. She poked at the holes in her slippers. Her mother passed a plate of tomatoes to a customer, then glanced at her. "You've been quiet lately," she said. Amelia shook her head. The words stayed trapped in her throat. As the final day for registration crept closer, her mother returned from the market, breathless. People followed her, their shirts bearing the school's logo. Amelia's eyes widened. Her mother pointed at her. "That's her," she said. The man stepped forward. "Congratulations," he said. "You have a full scholarship." Amelia's mouth opened. No sound came out. Her eyes filled with tears. Her mother reached out and pulled her into a tight hug. That night, her mother sat across from her, hands folded. Her voice was calm. "Stay focused," she said. "Pray always. Let your silence speak through your success." Amelia nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. When resumption day arrived, she dragged a dented metal trunk out of a corner. Her uncle had patched it with wires and rope. Inside, she placed 2 uniforms folded neatly, old textbooks stacked beside them, and a small bucket filled with Gary, sugar, and dry groundnuts. At the school gate, her eyes darted from one tall building to another. Her hand gripped her mother's tightly. The guard pointed them to the reception. A woman behind the desk flipped through a file, then motioned to a student to lead Amelia to her room. Her new roommates glanced at her trunk, then looked away. One of them whispered behind a hand. Amelia smiled and unpacked slowly. When the others giggled over chocolate biscuits, she dipped her spoon into soaked Gary. When they painted their nails, she bent over her books. At night, while loud music drifted from behind curtains, she whispered prayers under her breath. The voices followed her everywhere. Charity case. First scholarship girl. Girls pointed, laughed when she walked past. Her stomach growled during lunch, but she kept her head high. Then she saw Vanessa. Tall, confident. A crowd around her. Her blazer neatly pressed. Her laugh loud and sharp. Amelia watched her from afar. Her fingers curled into fists. She waited for the right moment. One afternoon, by the corridor, she stepped forward. "I want to be your friend," she said, her voice shaky. Vanessa turned slowly. Her eyes scanned Amelia from head to toe. A laugh burst out of her mouth. Jade, standing beside her, crossed her arms. "What makes you think we'd want a charity case in our circle?" Amelia looked at the ground. Her chest rose and fell. Vanessa tilted her head. "All right. But you have to prove yourself." Amelia lifted her chin. "Anything," she said. Vanessa smirked. "Drink this." A small bottle appeared in her hand. Amelia stared at the bottle, then at the girls watching her. Her fingers closed around the bottle. She lifted it to her lips and drank. Amelia's eyes fluttered open, her body sprawled on the cold grass of the school field. The moonlight stretched shadows across the empty ground. She blinked, confusion thick in her gaze. Slowly, she pushed herself up, knees trembling, hands scraping against the dirt. She moved stiffly, dragging her feet toward the dormitory, the building silent under the night sky. Inside, the halls were dark. Doors shut tight. She slipped into her room, muscles aching, and collapsed onto her bed. Her breath came uneven, heart pounding, but sleep refused to come. Her mind raced, trying to grasp what had happened. Morning spilled light through the classroom windows. Amelia sat, fingers clenched around her books, eyes unfocused. Vanessa walked past, head held high, barely sparing her a glance. Amelia's throat tightened, a cold weight settling in her chest. Her hands shook as she tried to write notes, words blurring on the page. Classmates whispered behind her back but never looked her way. Her pale face and quiet struggle went unnoticed, like she was invisible. Days crawled by. Amelia cornered Vanessa after class, voice shaky, eyes searching for answers. Vanessa's smile was sharp, cold. She shook her head, pretending not to understand, leaving Amelia more lost. Weeks passed, Amelia's strength drained. She stumbled through lessons, her body growing weaker. Her hands trembled uncontrollably when she tried to hold a pen. One evening, the chatter of students spilling out of the cafeteria broke into gasps as Amelia suddenly crumpled to the floor. Arms reached out, catching her before she hit the ground. She was rushed to the clinic, nurses bustling around, faces tight with worry. A nurse stared at the lab results, eyes wide with shock, then called urgently for a specialist hospital. The words, "kidney damage," echoed in Amelia's fading mind. At the hospital, machines beeped steadily. Doctors spoke in hushed tones. Amelia's mother gripped her hand tightly, tears sliding down her cheeks. A doctor's voice broke through the sterile quiet. Amelia needed a kidney transplant. Time was slipping away. In a small office, Amelia's mother paced. Her voice cracked as she told Mr. Thomas everything Amelia had said. His face was hard, unyielding. His words cut deep. Amelia was a troubled child, shaped by a harsh past. He refused to see the truth in her mother's desperate eyes. The next day, a letter arrived. Amelia's mother read the cold words, hands shaking so hard the paper trembled. The school expelled Amelia, blaming her alone. No mention of Vanessa or what really happened. The letter was a slap, calling Amelia a disgrace, a troublemaker from a broken home. Tears spilled freely down her mother's face as she clutched the letter close. Inside the hospital room, Amelia lay still, pale and fragile, fighting for every breath. News cameras flashed. Headlines screamed. Photos of Amelia and her mother filled screens. Words accused and condemned, twisting her story into a warning. The scholarship was cancelled, her dreams crushed beneath lies. Outside the hospital, her mother stood alone, voice rising in silent pleas. Strangers passed by, some with pity, others with judgment. A man approached, Caleb. His eyes held a knowing sadness. He listened closely as her story poured out. Caleb's fingers tightened around his notebook, memories flashing back. He remembered Ben, the boy who had died because of silence and fear. The secret water tank, the bullying, the cover-up. Caleb's jaw clenched. The same lies, the same silence. But this time, he would not look away. He dug into the shadows, searching for the truth while the school looked for a new literature teacher, unaware that the past was coming back to haunt them. Caleb handed in his application. Mr. Thomas smiled wide, shaking Caleb's hand with warmth. Caleb started work at the school. Wherever he walked, groups of girls turned their heads, whispering and giggling. Their eyes followed him, their smiles shy but bright. Vanessa approached him one afternoon, her books clutched tightly. She bit her lip, looking nervous as she said, "Can you help me with literature? I'm struggling." Caleb nodded calmly, folding his arms and agreeing. He watched her carefully, hoping to learn more about Amelia. Behind them, Jade stood still, watching every move. Her hands clenched into fists at her sides. She swallowed hard, eyes flicking between Vanessa and Caleb. She stepped back into the shadows, biting her lip, jealousy burning quietly inside. That night, Jade tossed under her covers, eyes wide open. She turned over again and again, her mind racing. The next day, Jade slid a folded note into Caleb's drawer. She wiped her sweaty palms on her skirt and waited. After prep, Caleb crept to the old lab. There, Jade waited, arms crossed, her school uniform crisp but her face anxious. Her voice came out fast, words tumbling as she spoke. "I want to tell you the truth. I'm scared, but you need to know." Caleb said nothing. He watched her closely, waiting. Jade's hands shook as she spoke. She told Caleb about the night Vanessa gave Amelia the drink. She described the laughter, the whispers, the way Amelia stumbled, thinking it was a joke. Her voice cracked as she said, "It wasn't a joke. When Amelia fell and we saw her in the clinic, I knew something was wrong. Vanessa warned me to keep quiet or else." Caleb's jaw tightened. His chest tightened too, like a fire was growing inside. Jade whispered, "Will you help her? I don't deserve it, but Amelia does." Caleb nodded slowly, eyes steady. "Yes," he said, "but we need proof." Jade handed him a flash drive. "I recorded the prank. It shows everything. Amelia drinking, laughing, then collapsing. Everyone running away." The next morning, Caleb's fingers clicked through emails, sending the video and Jade's confession to news outlets and human rights groups. Phones buzzed, notifications popped up. Screens lit with the hashtag Justice for Amelia. The school's doors buzzed with reporters and officials. The Ministry of Education closed the gates. Vanessa's parents sat stiffly in offices. Police came for Vanessa. Mr. Thomas sat alone in a quiet room, facing questions, his face pale. Amelia lay in a hospital bed. Her mother held her hand, whispered prayers, tears on her cheeks. People sent money, flowers, messages. Amelia's breathing grew steadier. Her fingers twitched. She smiled weakly. Months later, Amelia stood tall before cameras. Her voice soft but firm, she said, "I wanted to belong. But I wasn't the problem. The system was." She looked into the camera, her smile warm. "To every girl who feels invisible, your truth matters." Jade walked out of the school gates, bags in hand. Her shoulders were heavy but her eyes clear. She wrote a letter, words full of apology and hope. Caleb accepted an award on a stage, shaking hands with strangers. Cameras flashed. He spoke about justice, about change. Amelia returned to a new school. She studied hard, her head held high. She graduated with honors, wearing her cap and gown proudly. Later, she stood in a courtroom, defending children's rights. Her story lived on, not just in the school, but across the nation. Quiet halls, closed doors, whispered secrets, all now spoken aloud. Parents watched more closely, asked more questions, stood where silence had once been. Because some truths can no longer hide. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate every single one of you. I hope you enjoyed the story as much as I loved creating it. If you did, make sure to hit that like button, drop a comment to let me know your thoughts, and subscribe so that you don't miss any. See you in the next video, and don't forget to share it with friends and family who love heartfelt tales.